Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Estey. I'm coming to you from my living room in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. I'm sorry that I can't join you today, but I'm actually out of the province for the first time in almost 24 months in Ottawa, celebrating International Day of People with Disabilities with colleagues from the federal government and national disability organizations. But Sherry asked me to say a few words about International Day of People with Disabilities and the UN Convention today, so I'm happy to be able to do that by video. We live in a world of Zoom these days, so it seems pretty normal, I think. Anyway, I've worked as a disability rights advocate for probably 30 years or so, in a voluntary way, and once in a while somebody actually manages to pay me a few bucks, and that's always a pleasant change. I've worked with the Council of Canadians with Disabilities. I was a national coordinator there for a couple of years, up until a year or so ago. And previous to that, I'd been working as an independent consultant. But up until 2010, I was the Human Rights Officer at Disabled Peoples International. Our headquarters office is here in Canada, but we have members in about 150 countries around the world. And I'd worked with DPI as a staff person since 2003. When I joined DPI in 2003, it was right in the middle of the negotiations that led to the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. And that's what I'd like to speak with you about briefly this morning. Today is actually a really special day and a special commemoration because it's 20 years ago today that the government of Mexico at a UN anti-racism conference in Durban, South Africa, moved a motion that led to the creation of a mechanism called the Ad Hoc Committee. And that Ad Hoc Committee was struck by the UN General Assembly to consider whether or not there should be a new Human Rights Convention on people with disabilities, in the same way that there are conventions on the rights of the child and conventions on the elimination of discrimination against women and other treaties. The disability community globally had been trying to get this to happen since the 1970s, but we'd been very unsuccessful. However, at the Durban conference, Mexico's resolution was supported, and they took it back to the UN General Assembly on the 10th or 11th of December in 2001. And the General Assembly supported the creation of the Ad Hoc Committee to consider whether there should be a new convention. So that committee met for the first time in the summer of 2002. I traveled to New York to that meeting as a volunteer with the Council of Canadians with Disabilities. I was the chair of the International Committee at CCD in those days. I went to the first meeting of the Ad Hoc Committee, quite frankly not knowing what I was getting myself into, having no idea the next 20 years of my life were going to be kind of well, thrown a really big curve. Not a bad curve, but a curve nonetheless. So we negotiated the convention. I was a kind of a fly on the wall watching it all happen from 2003 to 2006. And the General Assembly adopted the, or how do they call it? The General Assembly adopted the convention in December of 2006 and opened it for signature in the spring of 2007, I think. Canada signed that day in 2007. I was actually privileged to be there, standing with the Canadian ambassador at the time, John McNee, as he signed Canada's name to the new Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. That put in place a process that took 3 years in which the Government of Canada worked to get support from all of the provinces and territories to implement the convention. And we